Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching me from. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching me from. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching me from. Today is going to be a marketing lesson. This live on today is for entrepreneurs. If you are somebody and God put in your heart to start a business, you have a business and you're not making sales, I am going to give you some tea today on how you can get sales in your business. Hey, Sabrina, thank you so much for joining. We're talking about how to get sales or the reasons why you're not getting sales in your business. So this live, it is for entrepreneurs. I'm speaking to entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or you're somebody and you know God is calling you to business, I want to invite you to take a front row seat today because we're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about sales. My name is Quonda Renee, right? I am an organic marketing strategist. That's just a fancy way to say that I help people get visibility online. I help people make sales through selling their products and services online without spending money on ads. I have helped people like Michael Todd, Sarah Jakes, Priscilla Shire, Medina Pullins, the list goes on and on and on and on, go viral on social media. So I study algorithms, I study the psychology of people, and then now I come on here and I just teach you marketing. So this right here is a journal that I made a couple years ago. This journal was $20. I made $100,000 selling this journal. I made $100,000 selling this journal right on TikTok. And so I want to give you the strategy. I want to give you the blueprint on how I made that $100,000. So if you are somebody on here and you have not made at least $5,000 a month in your business, if your business is not hitting those $5,000 a month, then this live is going to be for you. If you are somebody and you're beyond that, congratulations. But if you're somebody and you sell products, you could sell journals, you could sell t-shirts, you could sell services, you're a coach, and your business is not hitting those $5,000 months, then I'm going to give you a strategy. So the strategy I used to sell this $20 product was what I like to call the Luke 5 strategy or the PPP. The Luke 5 strategy or the PPP. I call it the Luke 5 strategy because I literally got it out the Bible. I got this marketing strategy from the Bible. Now, mind you, there are millionaires and billionaires and a lot of people who do not believe in God, right? But they use the Bible. They use the Bible as a way for strategy, as a way for marketing, as a way to do business, right? So there's a lot of intel, there's a lot of insight in the Bible, whether you believe in God or not, right? So in Luke 5, right, you have Jesus on the scene. There's a man named Jesus. I believe he's one of the greatest marketers alive. We know him for salvation. We know him for what he's done, but he's also, in my opinion, one of the greatest marketers alive. So there's a man named Jesus. Sorry, y'all, they're doing the grass outside. And he gets into one man's boat. The man that he gets into the boat is Simon Peter. That's one of the first P's. When you are selling a product or service, you have to know the person in which the product and services is for, right? If you're tracking with me, drop an emoji in the chat. Just want to make sure I'm in the right room because sometimes I know the algorithm will push me to another side of TikTok. And if I'm on that side, I need to get off. I need to get off. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. Right? So the first P is Jesus got into one man's boat, one person. When he gets into this man's boat, he realizes that this man has a problem, right? Another P, problem. So you have to identify a person, right, who you're going to market to, who you're going to sell to, and then you have to figure out what their problem is. And then Jesus offers Simon Peter a solution. The solution was go out a little bit deeper and you're going to get some fish. Go out a little bit deeper and you're going to get some fish. So for us as business owners, what that says is I got to identify a person who has a problem, and then I have to create a product or service that solves their problem. The PPP strategy, very, very simple. When you do marketing, you cannot speak to everybody. A lot of times we would like to say, oh, this is for, my t-shirt is just for everybody who needs a shirt. That's not how you do marketing. When you do marketing, you have to be very specific. Jesus got into one man's boat. You need to figure out who your one person is. You need to figure out who your one person is. So let's say I was selling this relationship book, right? I wouldn't say this book is for everybody who's struggling in their relationships. I would get a little bit more specific and I would say something like, this book is for the woman who keeps attracting emotionally unavailable men. Do you see how specific that is? Do you see how specific that is? Do you see how specific that is? You have to get specific in your language. A lot of y'all that have products, that have services, the reason why you're not making sales is because the person, you haven't called out the person. Another thing that Jesus done throughout the Bible was he would name people. He would call them out. He said, come all to me who are weary and heavy laden, and I'm going to give you rest. He called them out by a particular pain point, and then he offered a solution. That's how we have to do as business owners. So what I was doing when I was selling this journal was for people that were trapped in poverty, for people that were struggling with lack, for people that said things like, I am broke or I don't have enough. This is what this journal helps you to renew your mind, help you to get your speech together, and help you to get a financial breakthrough. So whenever I created content, whenever I did lives, I had to speak to that person, right? So if I know that that person says things like, I'm broke, unfortunately, in my content, I had to speak to them and say things like that, right? I had to speak to them and say things like that. And I did that in my lives. I did that in my videos. I would position that this journal was going to give you transformation. You're not just buying a product, you're getting a transformation. That's how I positioned it. And literally made over $100,000 just selling that on TikTok. I just gave y'all marketing tea right there. I hope that y'all paying attention. I just literally gave you marketing tea. I'll repeat it. You identify a person who has a problem, and then you create a product or service that solves their problem. Simple as that. And then every time in your messaging, every time when you're doing lives, your email marketing, all of that stuff, you have to speak to that person. You have to speak to that person. You have to speak to that person. It's very, very simple, but it takes you to sit down and figure out who it is I'm talking to. If you are somebody and you already have a product, right, you could kind of do it reverse. Think about your product as the solution. Who needs this solution? That's how you got to think about it. And what problem do they have? What problem do they have? The reason why I created this journal is because everybody kept coming in my inbox asking me for scriptures about finances, asking me to pray for their finances, asking me for money. And I was just saying to myself, I can't give everybody money, right? So let me just create something that I know has worked for me and give it to other people. When I was in a hard season, broke, busted, disgusted, sleeping on my parents' couch, the Lord showed me how to break the spirit of poverty and lack off of my life. During that time, I had to find scriptures and write them down, begin to meditating. I had to learn that my language, I could not identify with being broke. I can no longer say I am broke, but still believe in God to go to another place in my finances, right? So those are the things that I learned during that season. So I packaged it in this book and helped thousands and thousands of people get a financial breakthrough, right? So I want you to think about that in your own business. And I kind of want to get into a little bit about the reasons why your product isn't selling. Is there anybody on here that will be honest and say that their business is not hitting $5,000 a month? Is there anybody, and there's no shame in this. This is okay. The reason why you're here is to get this marketing tea so that way you can go out and do it. Is there anybody on here, whether you're on YT or whether you're on a Ticker Talker, that will be honest and say, I'm not at the $5,000 a month yet? Okay, we got somebody honest. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your honesty, right? But I want to give you a couple reasons why people don't buy, right? People don't buy when they are confused. So if on your page, you're talking about fishing, but you're trying to sell vitamins, can you understand why somebody would be confused? If you're on your page and you're twerking, but you're trying to sell a relationship book or you're trying to show people a prayer journal, do you understand why people will be confused? People don't buy when they are confused, right? People don't buy when they're confused. So you have to speak directly to that person. You have to understand what it is, what they're thinking, what they're praying for, what they're searching in Google. And you think about those things like that and you create content around it, right? Another reason why you don't get sales. If you talk to everybody, we kind of use that as an example before. If I am a relationship coach, it's not my job to speak to everybody with relationships. I need to find out which person is going to be attracted to whatever I'm selling, whether it be a book, a relationship book, and this, I'm not endorsing this book, I'm just using this as an example, or whether it be a coaching, a package. I got to speak to that person. I'm not going to say everybody that's been in a bad relationship, you got to buy this book. No. If you are somebody, if you are a female, if you are a woman, and you've been attracting emotionally unavailable men, then this is the book for you. Do you see how specific that is? Do you see how specific that is? Another reason why people don't buy is because you're posting without purpose. Every time you post a piece of content, you have to be intentional about what it is you're talking about. When people see your video, they should immediately know if it's for them or not. Thank you for the gifts. They should know immediately if it's for them or not. If not, let's keep on scrolling. That's why it's important too, when you're creating content, you're doing your lives, you call out, hey, Michelle, you call out exactly who it's for. That's why in the beginning of the live, you came on the beginning, I said, this is for entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur and you're not making $5,000 a month, this is for you. And the reason why I did that, because if you're somebody and you're in a space in your life and you're trapped in poverty and you're begging God for money, I want to make sure that to let you know, you're welcome to stay here, but I'm not going to be talking to you. I'm talking to the person that has a business. What was the name of this book? This is called Pray for Him or Change Him. It's on TikTok Shop. It's on TikTok Shop. Not me promoting TikTok Shop, but it's on there. It's on there. That's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about. So you got to make sure your post is with intention. Think about what your person needs to see when they're scrolling. Think about what are their secret prayers in regards to your business. So for my person, they're praying, God, help me to hit these 5K months. Help me, God, to understand marketing or to be able to afford somebody to hire them for marketing so that I can get these sales. I know you called me to business, right? I know you called me to business, but I got to make these sales, right? And then another thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do is you don't ask for the sale. You don't ask for the sale. So you're creating all this content and you're inspiring and you're uplifting, but inspirational content does not convert. It does not get you sales. It may get you likes, it may get you follows, but if you want the sale, you got to ask for the sale, right? You talking about relationships, and then at the end of that video, you say, hey, if you're looking for a relationship coach, book me, DM me for a one-on-one. You see that there's a call to action, right? Sometimes your call to actions could be, depending if you're just starting out, you could just say your call to action could be, you like content like this, follow me for more. But you have to tell people what to do. You literally have to tell people what to do. You have to make it direct, right? I was on live on YT last night, and me and my friend Star were talking. I was telling her about a mistake that I made when it was about the link in bio. So during the one of the TikTok phases, or when they was transitioning and they were pushing Lemon 8 was literally the first link in my bio. So I'm telling everybody, go to the link in my bio, go to the link. I'm thinking it was the product that I was selling. And so then one day I looked on Lemon 8 and I noticed that I got 15,000 followers. And I'm like, I've never posted over there. Why I got so many followers? But it's because I'm telling people to go to the link in my bio, right? And they're clicking the first thing they see. You have to legit tell people what they need to do. So don't make that mistake like I did, but it's all good. It's all good. Don't make that mistake like I did. So let's do a quick review for those just joining. If you're just joining, my name is Quonda Renee. I am an organic marketing strategist. That's just a fancy way to say I help people get sales online. I help people get visibility. I've helped people go, like Michael Ty, Sarah Jakes, go viral. And I do it without paying for ads. That's basically what it is. I do it without paying for ads. And so I was just coming on here today to show you a blueprint on literally how I made $100,000 selling this. And this is not the best looking product. If you look at it, it's not the best looking product. All I did was I packaged everything that I went through during that storm, during that season in my life. And I went in Canva and I formulated it. And I formulated it. Literally probably took me like an hour and a half to get it all together. And once I got it all together, I packaged it. And then now I had to go out and create content to speak to it. And lo and behold, that piece of content, that me showing up and doing what I need to do, allowed me to make $100,000. And I used, if you want to add one more P, select the platform. At the time, I only had the capacity to be on TikTok. I only had the capacity to be on TikTok because I had a really big brand on Facebook back in the day. And I had 3 million followers over there. And so my attention, and I had clients and all that, my attention was over there. So I could only show up on here when I could. But I still showed up. And every time I would do videos about prayer for finances, keys to breaking the spirit of poverty and lack, everything that I could think of that my person at that time was going through. And then I would literally create content. And at the end of every video, I was positioning this. I was positioning this. So you have to think about your person. Whenever you're creating content, take self out. Take self out and think about who needs this on the other side. What do they need to hear? And then a lot of times us buying is emotional. Us buying is emotional, especially if you're selling something over $1,000. You have to learn how to tap into the emotions. Hey, is it Latricia? Thank you so much for joining. You have to learn how to tap into the emotions. You have to learn how to tap into the emotions. Do we have any questions about our PPP method? We talked about identifying one person who has a problem, and then you create a product or service, or you position the product or service you have to solve their problem. It's really, really simple, but it takes you to show up. It takes you to show up. If you are somebody and you are a procrastinator, this ain't gonna work for you. It requires you to show up. I built the business while on my parents' couch. I built the business when I was laid off from a job and had nothing, right? I was believing God to go to another place in my finances, but an angel, couldn't believe this, an angel never came to my door and delivered me the money. An angel never came to my bank account and put the money there. Instead, God gave me a seed, which was an idea. And my job, my assignment was to plant that idea, was to plant that seed, water it by showing up in prayer, asking God questions. God, lead me to people that can help me along the way. Send me coaches, all of those things. When I was on my parents' couch and I started making a little bit of money, let me tell y'all my story real quick. So I was broke, busted, disgusted on my parents' couch, right? Going through a hard season, laid off from a job, couldn't figure out life, just trying to navigate. And so I'm like, God, I know you called me for more. I know you didn't call me to be sitting on my parents' couch. It's not your will for me to be broke, busted, and disgusted. So during that time, I was on a fast and I was praying, and I heard the Lord say, start a Facebook page. And that made absolutely no sense to me. I don't like social media, still don't, right? And now you want me to start a Facebook page? So I try to say, God, I don't think so. And then I was like, okay, God, I'll do it when you send me the money, when you get me the nice job. I'll give him all these excuses. And God said to me straight up, I didn't ask you for a conditional yes, Quonda. I asked you for a yes. If you want to get off of this couch, I need a full surrender. So I pushed my pride to the side, because when you really love God and you really have a heart for the Father, you can't tell him no. Push my pride to the side. August 6, 2017, I launched this Facebook page with really no direction. That night, 10,000 followers. Day 9, 100,000 followers. Then somebody says, hey, the Lord told me to give you a logo. Then a couple of weeks after that, somebody says, hey, how much money can I pay you to be on your page? So now, ding, 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 we have a business. Now I'm selling ad slots, right? I already have this big audience. Now preachers and pastors and business owners, now for a fee, I'll post your content in the midst of what I'm already got going on for you to get exposure. And that, me following God, literally changed the trajectory of my life. Literally changed the trajectory of my life. So I'm building and I'm learning. I'm out here doing DoorDash because I found a coach, and I wanted to learn at least how to make $1,000. So I'm doing whatever I need to do to make sure that coach can get paid, to make sure. That's where my mindset was. Even though I'm on the couch, I had to learn how to turn the couch into an altar, right? I had to learn how to see my perspective, to know that, yes, I'm in a hard situation, but I see a way out. So let me keep building. Let me keep showing up. So I'm building, I'm showing up, I'm starting to make money. Then I end up in a hotel. So then I'm still building, right? I'm still building. I got a bigger following now. By then I got 1 million something followers. I got Hollywood producers calling me. I'm making deals while living in a hotel, and I'm still building and still trusting God and still building and still trusting God. My point in telling y'all that story is, even when you're in a low place, if God is calling you to build, you still build. You don't wait for the perfect situation to build. You build in the dark. Real faith glows in the dark. Real faith glows in the dark. You build and you show up and you watch God. But God unlocked the provision, right? The money that I was praying for, the opportunities I was praying for, they were literally trapped into my obedience. They were literally trapped into my surrendering. The reason why I was struggling in my finances and in my purpose was because I didn't surrender those areas to the Lord. I didn't surrender those areas to the Lord. And so those were the areas I was struggling in. And then once I learned, okay, I need to give this to you, God. I need to surrender this to you. Then my life changed. My life changed. And I never looked back. And I remember one day I was walking around that hotel parking lot and I'm just praying and believing God. And then my phone goes ding. So I look down at my phone and it's one of my clients and he says, and it's March. He says, hey, I want to pay you off for the rest of the year. That got me out of that hotel and I never looked back. 2019, I was in a hotel. 2020, I was living the best life I've ever made. I hit multiple six figures in 2020. I had opened a warehouse in 2020. My life literally changed. But while I was in that hotel, I was writing down everything that I wanted, right? I want a driver. I want to be, I want to fly first class. I want to do all of these things, God, that I never got to do in my life. And then by 2020, the Lord allowed me to do all of that. While people were closing up, while people were going through all the things they were going through, I was living my best life. And that's another principle for us believers, right? They may call a recession here in the natural, in the earth, right? But we come from a different citizenship, right? There's no recession in heaven. This is a principle I live by. There's no recession in heaven, so there's no recession in me. I sit in heavenly places with Christ Jesus. That's my temperature. That's my seat. And I'm not going to move. They may do it. All the stuff may be happening in the earth, but it's not going to affect me because I come from a different place. And that's when I'm going to reel back in, but that's the difference between a child of God and a son of God. Children beg, God, give me this. God, I'm struggling. But a son of God rises up and says, no, in your word, you said, if a thief be found, they have to repay sevenfold. In your word, you said, if I give, it be given unto me, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, that men will give unto my bosoms. I decree and I declare that men are given unto my bosoms. So you got to know who you are. Even as a business owner, you got to know who you are. You got to walk by faith and not by sight. Keep showing up, keep building, keep trusting God, and believing that on the other side, there's the breakthrough. If you look at, I think it's 2 Samuel, there was a couple of things that David did. The Bible says he inquired of the Lord, which basically means he prayed. And then he waited for instructions. And once he got the instructions, he followed the instructions of the Lord. And do you know where he ended up? At a place called Bel Perazim. That means the place of breakthrough, the Lord of breakthrough. That is a strategy that we can take in our own lives. When you pray and you inquire of the Lord and you wait for him to give you instructions and then you move, that's when the breakthrough will come. You think about Simon Peter. If we go back to Luke 5, we're going to look at Luke 5. We did practical, right? We did the marketing. Now I want us to look at Luke 5 from the spiritual side. When Jesus gets into Simon Peter's boat, that's basically Simon Peter saying, Lord, I surrender my business. I surrender my economy. I surrender my finances to you. And so now he's surrendered, right? He's allowing Jesus to have access to those areas. So now after the surrendering comes the obedience. Jesus says, this is what I want you to do. I want you to launch out into the deep. First, Simon Peter is like, Master, we've been toiling all night. I'm a fisherman. And right now there's no fish out here at all, right? He's thinking from head knowledge. Right? And then he had enough sense to say, nonetheless, at your word, Jesus, I'm going to do it. At your word, Master, I'm going to do it. And when he followed the instructions of what Jesus told him to do, he surrendered, he obeyed. And when he followed the instructions, guess what happened? The net breaking blessing. There is strategy in the Bible to live your life. When you obey and when you surrender and obey, you got to watch how God does this thing, right? And you got to trust him. It may not come out exactly how we planned or we hoped, right? But knowing you're going to get to the other side of this. Your business will be all that it needs to be if you show up and do the work. but you got to show up and do the work, right? You can't just, and this is another thing that stops, and I'm talking to Christians, right? Even if you're not a Christian, you can still be on here because these principles work whether you believe or not believe, right? But as Christians, we like to stay stuck in prayer. Oh, I'm just praying and just praying. Sometimes we'll use prayer as an excuse not to move. Sometimes as believers, we use prayer as an excuse not to move. Some of you, God told you to do that thing months ago, years ago, and you're still bringing it back into prayer. It's just a sign that you don't really trust him, right? And so you got to work on that. We are in mid-June. Mid-June. How many of you set out in January to say, I'm going to do this with my business, I'm going to do this, and now we're in mid-June and still nothing? And now we're in mid-June and still nothing. You've either allowed the spirit of procrastination to rob you, to hinder you. Do you know who goes together real good? The spirit of procrastination and poverty. They go hand in hand. They go real good together. They love each other, right? So a lot of people trapped with the spirit of procrastination are often the people that don't have any money, are often the people that are broke, right? Because you allow that spirit to keep you in bondage, to keep you noosed up, to keep you in a chokehold. You got to learn how to move. You move even when it's messy. I moved when it was messy. I was on my parents' couch, and I'm saying to God, if you give me a better circumstances, then I'll honor you. And God says, that's not how I'm working with you. I need you to allow me access to get into your boat. And for some of y'all, God is saying to you, do it again, but this time with me in the boat. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Do it with me, but this time in the boat. You tried it before and it did not work, but this time I'm going to be with you. So I need you to do it again. If you're just joining, we're talking about marketing. We're talking about Bible marketing secrets, honestly. It's just we're in the middle of June. We got less than 6 months left in this year. Half the year has gone by. And if you're still in covenant with the spirit of procrastination, you're going to let another 6 months go by without moving? No, you got to move. The way to beat the spirit of procrastination is to do something. It's to move in some capacity, in some form. It's to move. It's to do something. It's to show up for yourselves, right? Everybody, and I'm going to talk to Christians again. Y'all been talking about, that wealth transfer is coming. Guess what? The wealth transfer is here. It's not coming. It's here. But it's only going to be for those that are in alignment and positioned to receive it. How can you receive a wealth transfer if you won't do the research to start the business? If you won't do the research to do whatever, got the podcast or whatever, if you won't hire the coach that you know can help you go to the next level. Some of y'all been praying for strategy and praying for people to come into your life to help you, but then you pause when there's a price tag on it. You got to get out of that mentality. That's a poverty mindset to think that you should get everything for free. Everything should be handed to you for free. Poverty mindset. A wealthy person thinks like this. Okay, so she charges $10,000. Let me see what I need to sell, how many clients I need to meet to hit that $10,000 because I want to get, I know she got what I need or he got what I need, and I'm ready. I'm ready to make a move. Don't allow another 6 months, y'all, go by. And I know the summer is here or is coming or whatever. And a lot of times we like to slack off and just chill and not do nothing. But at the end of the summer, then what? What if you buckle down, you do what you need to do, right? Then by August, September, you could just sit back and just be like, chill, because that money is coming in automation. All you got to do is get the strategy, and that money is coming in on automation, right? You learn your person, hey, extra. You learn your person, you show up, you do what you got to do, and the money is there. You no longer have to go to prayer begging God for money. That's one thing I do not believe in. I do not believe in begging your father for provision, right? I am a son of God. Son just means position. Forget gender. You're thinking gender, you're thinking too low. Position. So one thing, what I pray for consistently is God give me wisdom. If I have nothing else, if I have wisdom, I'll have everything I need. Because if the wisdom comes, I'll know how the money is supposed to come in, right? I'll know how the money is supposed to come in. Any questions about our marketing lesson that we have for today? Any questions? If there's anybody on here, hey, Star, and you have not hit $5,000 a month in your business and you're serious, I am hosting a marketing boot camp. We start Monday. I just woke up today and was just like, oh my God, that boot camp starts Monday. It's 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I'm going to show you how to get your mindset right, because you got to believe that that's $5,000 is achievable. I'm going to help you with finding your target audience. I'm going to help you with creating a content plan. I'm going to help you with Pinterest marketing. I'm going to help you with creating a funnel. I'm going to help you with all of those things for 6 weeks. It's not for the procrastinator. If you are somebody and you cannot show up for yourself, it's not for you. It's for the action taker, the mover. It's for somebody, though, that has a product. If you have a product, it will just make it easy already. I have, however, had a couple of people join the bootcamp last time around, and they didn't have a product, but they were implementers. So they were working on their product as well as learning. We meet Monday nights live on Zoom, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I give you a lesson. You can ask questions and give you homework. You just got to show up. So if you're interested in that on TikTok, it is an investment. Let me say that. Let me wean out some people that just thinking, oh, I got to keep consuming free information. If you want free information, you can watch me on YT. You can get all my content over there. But if you're not afraid to make an investment in 6 weeks and know by like August, September, that money's going to be coming in if you do the work, on TikTok, send me a DM and type bootcamp and send me your email and I'll send you the information. Type bootcamp on TikTok, and I'll send you the information. On YouTube, I'll throw it in the chat. On YouTube, I'll throw it in the chat. I could give you a couple testimonials. So one of my students, she didn't talk during most of the 6 weeks. And I just found out she didn't talk because she was pregnant, so a lot of times she's probably coming on there and she's tired, but she was implementing. She didn't have 1,000 followers on her TikTok. She started applying the stuff that she learned. Not only did she hit the 1,000 on TikTok, but she booked her first $2,000 client. So she already made her investment back. What she sold into me, she already made it back. I had another student on there. She literally was sitting on 46 podcast episodes. 46 podcast episodes and doing nothing with it. As soon as I had a conversation and I was like, do you know you don't have to go out and do more content, right? We're just going to take what you already said and we're going to chop them up and make them videos. Now she's built a YouTube channel. Now she's built a TikTok. Now she's getting ready to launch a journal to an audience that she created while she was in the boot camp. So it will work if you work it. It'll work if you work it. When I first hired a coach, because I knew I needed to hit $1,000, I was on my parents' couch. I got up and did DoorDash to make sure every month, right, she got her money. But I had a different mindset. I didn't allow my circumstance to stop me from moving, right? If you are somebody like, man, what she's saying sounds good, but I'm not sure I had the resources, why don't you go and ask God to send you some resources or to show you where to look for the resources? Princess was doing a live the other day and she was saying how she wanted to join my monthly membership when I had it. And she said she didn't have the resources. So she prayed and within 2 days, God sent her what she needed to join. God sent her what she needed to join. Now, I'm going to tell you this. The bootcamp is only going to work if you work it. So that means you got to show up. Even if, let's say there's a day you can't make it, you'll get access to replays. But your job is to ask me questions. You get access to what I like to believe is a marketing genius. It's just me, just my belief says, my belief. You get access to a marketing genius. And so you have me and you can literally ask me whatever you need to ask me in regards to your marketing. And I look at your stuff, right? I go and look at your pages and I tell you, no, let's tweak this. So you say this in your videos. Let's try this. But it's only for the people that are ready to move. And can I tell y'all this? I've even had people who living in a hotel who booked me in the past. I've had people who were homeless living in their car who booked me. But you know what? They had a different mindset. Everybody don't have that kind of faith. So I ain't telling nobody to do nothing. But they had a mindset, if I can just get some of her wisdom to help me to navigate, I know that I won't be here forever. I know, and they all have testimonies, literally. So if you're interested here on the Ticker Talker, send me a DM, put bootcamp, put your email as well on YT. I'm going to drop the link so you guys can just go directly to the information. We start Monday. We start Monday, y'all. We start Monday. If you need a payment plan, that is available as well. But you're going to have to grab that payment plan soon because I'm getting ready to take it off. So do we have any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Sabrina, for taking notes. Does anybody have any questions, y'all? While I'm here, I'll come back on tomorrow as well. But does anybody have any questions about marketing? I know we said a lot. How would you launch a faceless brand and the type of content you create? The type of content you create is based off of what your faceless brand is going to be about. So you have to sit and think about, what do you want to talk about that's not going to reveal your face? There are people that do AI faceless content, right? There are people that do cat video content. So you have to decide what you want to, the topic, the category of that page, right? And then you create content around it and you just start. I used to have a faceless brand class. Very, very simple. I think we taught that, was that last year, beginning of the year, faceless brand. I started out, my first brand was faceless. I did not reveal myself for the first 2 years. And this is back in 2017, before everybody was posting sermon content. I was one of the first people on Facebook at that time posting sermon content. And first day I launched it, 10,000 followers. Day 9, 100,000 followers. I am part of the reason, well, God used me to help Michael Todd go viral. Before 2018, y'all may have never heard of Michael Todd. One day the Lord sends me to YouTube and I'm looking for relationship sermons. And I see this guy and he's talking about relationships. And so I'm thinking, what will resonate with my audience? So I go find a clip on there. And do you know that video ended up hitting 20 million views? This man at the time was broke, busted and disgusted, car jacked up, trying to figure out if he should still be preaching, right? And literally that video going super viral made Steve Furtick reach out to him, allowed him to write the book, Relationship Goals, that a lot of you probably have. And now they're getting ready to do the movie, right? But I had to move. I had to hear God say, go to YouTube. And then once God got me on YouTube, I had to make a decision. Oh, this is good. All I was doing was trying to find something that my audience was going to relate to, right? And it just happened that it was him. This man didn't even have, I wish I had that screenshot. But this man back then, he didn't even have 100 followers on his page when I stumbled on him. He didn't. But God changed the trajectory of his life. I don't know what his prayers was, but God sent somebody on the backside of the desert that he used to open that man's life. Now, y'all can think what y'all want to think about him. I don't know him, so I don't really have no thoughts on him, but I know how God used me. If I plan to sell an ebook, do you advise selling it on Facebook or also both Instagram? Wherever your audience is. I usually don't pick a platform over the other. I always think about my audience, where they are. I personally don't use Meta, but that's just my personal preference. But you go where your audience is. And then you want to make sure that the ebook is solving a problem and your content is around talking about the person who has that problem, who needs your ebook. Because a lot of times what people do wrong is we go out and create a book and we just think, oh, because this is a great book, in my mind, everybody's going to buy it. No, you have to remember, who's the focus? How is this book going to transform somebody's life? People pay for transformation. I don't sell on Stand anymore. I used to, though. I made over $100,000 using Stand, but I don't use them anymore. But I don't have anything bad to say about them. I don't prefer any platform. Yeah, you just go where your person is. You go where your person is. And you go in a place where you know you can show up. My faceless brand was Facebook and Instagram. I use those two. I still have my Facebook was hacked, but I still have the Instagram. I just haven't posted over there in a very, very long time. But we'll see. Maybe one day. I don't know. Or when I gather my team back again, then they can do that. But as for me in my house, I ain't posting more than I have to. I have 3 ebooks, but no traffic. So you gotta learn marketing. You gotta know who your person is that you're speaking to, right? And you gotta think of how your ebook solves their problem, right? You got to get specific on who is this ebook for? Who is it for? Is it for busy moms? Because if you just say this ebook is for moms, that's very general. If you say busy moms, that's a little bit more specific. You got to really sit down and identify who needs this book, right? Because We all have books, right? But we buy transformation, right? If I'm trying to sell you a wig, right? I need to put that wig on so you can see and you can imagine what you're going to look like once you get the wig, right? Now I can say, if you are somebody, you don't want to do your hair in the summer, honey, put this wig on, right? And it's helping you to visualize, to see yourself wearing that wig. That's why a lot of people on the TikTok shop do very, very well, because they give y'all the transformation live. I was at a TikTok event yesterday, and a lot of those people in that room are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars by promoting other people's products here on the TikToker. So you gotta figure out, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand your product. Sometimes you gotta sit and do a deep dive, right? Think about the people that DM you. Think about the people that have emailed you. Think about those different things. The reason why I created this book is because I was tired of emails or DMs of people saying, can I borrow some money? Can I have some money? No, they weren't even asking to borrow. It was, can I have? And I'm just like, I'll give you a solution. So I'll give you a solution. So if there's anybody interested, we're going to start Monday. Boot camp, 6 weeks, y'all. But you got to be the person that's going to show up, okay? It ain't going to work for you if you don't show up. The last boot camp we just did, everybody showed up, which was amazing to me. And they're all getting results. And the first 3 people to sign up, I am going to do a one-on-one with you. I saw a testimony. Hold on. Let me see. I saw a testimony. Oh, my God. I saw your testimony, Building a Faces brand. Did the Lord lead you to post about sermons? Yeah, because I didn't even like social media. I kind of just gave the story on that. I don't know if you were in here. I kind of just gave the story on that. At the time, there was a need. Nobody was really posting sermon content. Now, everybody and their mama posted, right? But at that time, nobody was posting it. And it came a couple years right before the pandemic, when everybody was online, right? When everybody was looking for hope and inspiration. You know, I was talking to this girl a while ago who used to work for Twitter and Meta. And she said one of the top things that were searched during the pandemic was God. She said, but they didn't want us to know that. But that was one of the most top search things in the search bar during the pandemic was God. People wanted hope. And so God allowed me to come years before start giving out this hope. So I already had an I was already established in the marketplace. I have a YouTube channel that's monetized, but I stopped posting on any advice. And just start back, and then you'll kind of figure out a rhythm of what your people are into. But you got to start back. Just start back, and then see what's working. Do like a test. Maybe put yourself on a challenge for the next 30 days. You're going to post on YouTube. You're going to post on YT, right? And then you figure out what your audience is into. Hold on, somebody's trying to go live. What I tell you is about to be. Yeah, I don't think it's ever stopped being searched, honestly. I literally just found out what my purpose is with only a TikTok account. Is the bootcamp for me? What do you mean when you say you just found out what your purpose is? Because the bootcamp is marketing. So if you know you have a product or a service that you want to get out into the world, that's what who the bootcamp is for. It's for somebody who has a product or a service, or because I have a couple people that joined last time that didn't have a product. But by the time they left the boot camp, they were either working on it while they're in the boot camp, or by the time they left, they started it. So it's for marketing. It's to help you with your mindset to see that you can make $5,000 a month or more. And then it's to help you build a content strategy, build a content plan. You know, there are certain posts that you create that are supposed to be just for sales. Hi, it's me. There are certain posts that you post that will generate sales. And then there's certain posts that you post if you want to make the connection with your people. So I talk about things like that. Talk about Pinterest, right? Pinterest is not social media. Pinterest is not social media, but it is a search engine. 86% of the people over there are going there with a buying intent to buy something. So I teach you just a strategy of just to have a presence over there. I teach you how to build a funnel. I had 3.6 million followers. I had 3.6 million followers, right? And one day my account was hacked. What saved me was that I had an email list. So I show you how to build a funnel on the back end so that you can start collecting people's emails. So that way, if something happens with these platforms, you still have a way to communicate with your audience. I can help y'all with promoting on Facebook and TikTok. We're not doing that, honey. We're talking about marketing. We're not talking about promotion. We're talking about marketing strategy. That's what we're talking about. Strategy. Did you do no? So my testimony or my strength is that I'm an organic marketing strategist. That means I don't pay for ads. I learn the algorithm. I study the psychology of people, and then I create content around that. So no, I never paid for followers. My story was miraculous though. Like God was using that to one, do something in the earth and get the gospel out in a new way, but also to take me out of the place that I was in. So no, I've never done ads. I've never done ads. I never had to do ads, honestly. Never had. I made $100,000 on TikTok without ever doing an ad. So once you learn your audience, you don't have to do it. See you on Monday. Are you joining? Are you joining? Super excited. Super excited. Super excited. All right. Any other questions, y'all, before we wrap up for today? I'm super excited. I'm super excited. We're going to have a phenomenal time. You're going to have a phenomenal time. I'm telling you. We're going to have a phenomenal time. She joined already. Shout out to you. We're going to have a phenomenal, I'm telling you. It'll work if you work it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate that. Any other questions, y'all? I'm telling y'all, if you're ready to move, let's go. Monday, we taking off, y'all. We're not allowing another 6 months to go by and then nothing. We're not going to allow, thank you for the gifts, another 6 months to go by and nothing. Hold up. Is my mama in the room? I see somebody taking my mama. She in the room? Ma, are you in here? I see somebody at you. So I'm trying to figure out if you in the room or what. If you in the room or what. I don't know what is going on. Hey, is it Brielle? Thank you so much for joining. That's okay, Brielle. The great thing is you can watch a replay as soon as we end it. You can watch a replay. Thank you so much for joining. Oh my God. Let me I don't know what's going on YouTube, but yeah, let me ban this person right here. I don't know what's going on YouTube, but I don't look like no Sexy Red. I don't even know who Sexy Red is. Okay. My name is Quonda Renee. All right. Oh, so if you want to join the boot camp, because I'm missing some of the comments on YT, I'll put it back in the comments. And there's the direct link. For people on Ticker Talker, click that little orange button. Send me a DM and say boot camp in there so I'll know. Send me a DM that says boot camp. And if it lets you send your email. Hey, Mai, I was wondering why somebody was tagging you. Thank you for joining on today. So send me a DM on Ticker Talker if you're serious. I'm telling y'all, this is not for the procrastinator, right? If you're at that level where you're procrastinating, oh my God, what did I just do? Oh shoot. I don't know what I just did with the comment section. Oh my God. What did I just do? Swipe left. Oh God. You know what? I don't know what I did. Okay. Ooh, child. Which service or product you was working on TikTok? Oh, this right here. I sold this on TikTok. This was a $20 product that I sold on TikTok for $20, and I made over $100,000. This was a couple years ago. I made over $100,000. Now, if I didn't have the mindset that I have now, this would have never been $20. It would have been way more than $20. But I did that using the PPP method. But I've also, so if you're somebody in your service, right? I've also gotten high ticket clients off of social media as well, right? I just told you the example of my student. She booked her first 2K client while being pregnant, 6 months pregnant at that, simply by showing up. So I give you strategy on your lives and different things like that, help you to hone in on your audience. So that's basically what the bootcamp is about. The first week though, the Monday, we got to get into this mindset because I got to get you to understand and to see, I'm going to explain the PPP method in 1 second, to see that you are capable, you are worthy to have at least $5,000 a month. At least $5,000 a month. Whether you want to choose a $20 product to do it or whether you want to choose a $5,000 product to do it, it's totally up to you. So the PPP method, for those just joining, let's go over the PPP method. The PPP method is a strategy I got directly from Luke 5. Luke 5 in the Bible is about a man named Jesus. He gets into one man's boat, Simon Peter. He then identifies that Simon Peter has a problem. The problem is they've been toiling all night and not catching any fish. Then Jesus offers a solution. He says, if you go out a little bit deeper, you're going to get those fish. PPP. You identify a person who has a problem and you create a product or service that solves that problem. You identify a person who has a problem and you create a product or service that solves that problem. Or if you are somebody and you already have a product, you would think about the problem that your product solves and the person who has that problem. Whoop, child. Those PPPs be throwing me off. This was birthed because people kept coming in my inbox, asking me for scriptures and asking me for money. In a previous season, I was broke, busted, disgusted, on my parents' couch and couldn't navigate. During that time, God was showing me how to break the spirit of poverty and lack off of my life. So what I did is everything I learned in a past season, I packaged it, then I brought it out. I packaged it, then I brought it out. Do you have an understanding? One person, that's the first P. One problem, that's the second P. One product. PPP method. PPP method. Millionaires and billionaires use this exact strategy. I was literally watching this lady on YT the other day, and she said, you know what has made my membership grow is because I identify the person who has a problem and I created a product or service that helps them. And then I chose one platform to do it on. And I was just like, man, God, you out here giving everybody the PPP. I thought I just knew it. So you got to identify a person who has a problem and then you create a product or service that solves their problem, or you reverse engineer it if you already have a product already or a service already, right? So you just have to think about, keep at the front mind when you're creating content, right? When you're doing lives, you think about the person who needs the very thing that you carry or the very thing that you're selling, right? So to the people, maybe you're not at the marketing phase, right? Maybe you're at a phase and you're trying to figure out what your product should be. Think about something you overcame in a past season. We just had a class last Friday. It was called Monetize Your Testimony. I was literally showing women how to package their testimony, the same story I'm telling y'all how I was broke, busted, disgusted, and turn that into money. And a lot of them left there with the mindset of, I got to start a journal. I got to start a devotional. I got to do coaching. So you can think about something you've overcame and give it to somebody else. If you go to 2 Kings chapter 4, there is a widow woman, right? There is a widow woman in 2 Kings chapter 4. And this widow woman is getting ready to lose her children. Her children are getting ready to be sold into slavery. So as a mom, it's her responsibility to just be like, hold up, I can't allow this to happen. So what I love about this widow woman is the Bible never says she goes into her prayer closet and she begs God for a way out. And I'm not saying don't pray, but she just had a different mindset. So instead, she got up and she went to seek out wisdom from a man named Elisha. She gets to Elisha. She tells him what's going on. Elijah asks her a very simple question. And I'm going to ask you guys that may not have a product or service yet. What's in your house? He didn't say, what's beyond you, what your neighbors. He asked her, what do you already have? What's already on the inside of you? And at first she's like, nothing but some oil. She minimized the very thing that God was going to use to change her finances, to change her life, to turn her from widow to entrepreneur. She minimized it. Hey, Mary, she minimized it, right? She didn't see it. Elisha was kind of like a coach. He had to get her to change her perspective. I know you came in here broke, busted, and disgusted, but by the time I'm done with you, I'm just going to shift your perspective, right? So Elisha asked her what's in her house. She says nothing much but a little oil. Sometimes we minimize the very thing that God can use to take us to the next level. So he says, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go borrow some vessels, not just a few. And then I want you to shut the door behind you and your sons and then begin to pour the oil. He told her to shut the door behind her and her sons. You know why? Because during those times, those bill collectors, they pull up. They show up. and they would have came and distracted her from pouring. That's why sometimes God will remove situations and people out of our life if it's going to distract us from pouring the oil that's already in our house. Thank you, Holy Ghost. And so she does what he says, and then she goes back, because now she got one part of the miracle. The oil only stopped when she ran out of the capacity, when she ran out of the jars. But that still wasn't going to stop the bill collectors from coming, and that still didn't put money in her bank account. So she goes back to Elisha, and he gives her a strategy. And the strategy is this: sell off the oil, pay off your debts, and live off the rest. Hey, I pray. Sell off the oil, pay off your debts, and live off the rest. She literally went from broke, poverty-stricken, poverty mindset widow woman to now she's a business owner. Now she's an oil distributor. Do you see? It don't take God a long time to do that thing. You just got to be in position and got to be hungry and say, God, however you want to do this thing, I just know my kids can't go. I just know my kids ain't going to be sold into slavery. I got to do what I got to do. That was a mama, right? Y'all know moms, we fight for our kids, right? She was ready to do whatever she needed to do so they wouldn't be taken away from her. Now he says, live off the rest. So she had to be making some money. And not only that, she now walks away with a strategy. Now, if it ever gets low, she knows how she can make money again. She has a strategy to continue to make money. She has a strategy to keep going on. Wealthy woman, broke, busted, disgusted, trapped in poverty mindset. She couldn't see the very thing in her house could change the trajectory of her house or her life. But once she allowed herself to get in a place of wisdom and then receive what he told her to do, it changed her life. Some of you just need to get in the right circle. You just need to get in the right atmosphere. You just need to get the right coach. You need somebody to help you to identify the oil and then tell you to pour it. And so that's what we talked about on Friday. So I was telling them the story of how every time, usually some way or form, I tell my testimony how I was broke, busted, disgusted on my parents' couch, living in a hotel, all of that. Every time I tell it in some way or form, I'm making money. Whether it be somebody book me and hire me because they heard my story. I've booked multiple $1,000 clients on here because they heard me talking about me being broke, busted, disgusted, and all of that. Right? And people book me to come tell my story on their platforms or at their events. You can get paid for telling your story, but you got to identify the story. Then you got to package it, and then you got to get it out there. So that's what I was teaching them on Friday. So if you're somebody, I just gave y'all, we done had like 3 master classes in one. Okay. We done dropped gems on this, and it's beyond my time. So if you're somebody in that realm and you have not identified the oil yet or the product, then you got to sit and think about that. So, all right. Any other questions, y'all? I love y'all with the love of the Lord. Thank you so much for joining. Any other questions, y'all? If you're just joining, we've been talking about marketing, how to get sales, right? We're not just in business just to be in business. We're in business to make sales. And you make sales when you show up. You make sales when you identify your person. You identify the problem. You are now, after hearing this live, you are now a solutionist. Everything you do is solution oriented. Your job is to transform other people's lives. Do you know people will pay you to solve their problems? Wealthy people pay you way more to solve their problems. Something my bishop said on Sunday. He says, it doesn't matter if you're the richest man in the world or, somebody that ain't got no money. Everybody has a problem. Everybody has a need that needs to be solved. You just have to figure out whose need you're going to solve in this season. I'm going to give y'all one more story and then I'm going to get off. So my bishop was telling a story on Sunday of how he was invited to this event, right? And at this event, there was one billionaire he knew already, and there was another one he didn't really know. So they invited him to come sit at the table. And so they're talking and he just sitting around. And so the other billionaire that my bishop did not know, he ordered tea. They're in this wealthy establishment in Atlanta, and the server brings them tea in a freaking paper cup. And my bishop thinking in his mind, like, this is one of the wealthiest establishments out here, and y'all give him a paper cup, and he ain't say nothing. So the billionaire get ready to pick up the cup to drink the tea, and he realizes it's too hot. So he puts it back down. So then my bishop gets up and he slips away, and he goes talk to the maitre d', and he says, hey, can you give me one of the finest porcelain glasses that you have, the tea cup that you have? So he gets it, right? He comes back to the table. He takes the man's tea and pours it in the porcelain and pushes it back over to him. The billionaire stops and say, hey, what are you, bishop or pastor? And then they start engaging in conversations. And my bishop, I forgot to mention this part. This is the whole point of the story. But when my bishop first sat down at the table, he did a simple prayer. He said, God, allow me to meet a need in this man's life. Allow me to meet a need in this man's life. Identify a need that this man had. And so God identified the need in this teacup. He needed somebody to speak up to say, you don't give somebody of this caliber a paper cup with hot tea. It just don't make sense. And so now he starts talking to my bishop, asking him questions. Now the person is my bishop's friend now. But you see, my bishop asked and prayed to meet the man's need, and that opened the door. So now he knows 2 billionaires, right? But my point in that story is everybody has some type of need. Your job is to now be a solutionist. So maybe your prayer tonight or today is, God, show me a need in such and such life or this person's life. One of my prayers is, God, all the millionaires and billionaires you got in this world, I can solve their problems. Okay. Wealthy people pay me good money. Okay. That's one of mine. Okay. And give me y'all free game. That's one of mine, because I know they got the money and they not afraid to pay. Okay. So I can solve their problems. All right, y'all. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. Any more questions before we go? Any more questions before we go? Any more questions before we go? If not, we'll be back on tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're still going to continue the conversation about how to get you more sales. And then you can ask me marketing questions. Some of y'all did ask some marketing questions. If I missed it, I apologize. But if there's no more questions, we will wrap it up for today. YouTube, thank you so much for joining. You'll have the replay as soon as it ends. Thank you so much for joining over on YT. Again,